Should Russell want to leave Seattle and go somewhere else and find greener pastures?
Yes, he should.
Oh man, here we
He
go.
should. I knew you weren't going to like this response and this answer, but that's the fact. When you own a business, LaVar,
yes,
and you are the owner and you have employees, you rank those employees, and you look for a manager, someone who can run your business, someone who can run with your vision and help you facilitate and operate at a high level and manage the others around you. That's the quarterback in the National Football League to these organizations. They are the managers. They are the most valuable asset that a team can have on the football field. And Russell Wilson right now is not feeling it. And when you feel like you haven't had the input or your thoughts aren't being considered or taken into even consideration, that's a problem. That's problematic. So regardless of how much I'm willing to pay someone, they're out. Their thought process is, I need to go somewhere where I'm wanted, where my decisions or my thoughts really matter. That's what Russell Wilson is feeling like right now. And so if he does feel like that, which he's expressed, then yes, look for other areas to go. Look for other organizations to play for. And that's fine. It may not be the greenest of grass, like everybody always say, but it's not about the dollar, I don't believe, for Russell Wilson. It's about being able to have some input. And when we look at what Tom Brady did, and this all goes to Tom Brady, when we look at the fun he was able to have, how he was able to bring guys in, and they were able to really take what he said and implement it, that's what quarterbacks in this league are looking for.
Listen, I'll say this. He shouldn't want to leave Seattle. Sometimes you look back on a relationship and you have way fonder memories after the relationship has ended. And I think that this could be one of those situations for Russell Wilson. He doesn't really realize how good that relationship has been, even if you've seen the rough parts that you didn't like, the things that you mentioned, Greg, having more of a say, being able to manage the way that he wants to manage. Russell Wilson has built quite a reputation being a part of this Seattle Seahawks team, and a lot of due in part to the assistance and the help of those people that he's saying have no type of recourse, no type of answering that they have to do. You do what you want to do, but once you detonated what Russell Wilson has detonated, he's going to eventually have to move on. Is that now or is that later? I think the more he continues to put out there, the more that he releases to the media, it does become a media circus, a distraction to the Seattle Seahawks inside that locker room, inside that building, and it makes it very difficult to try to mend fences and move forward after that. So, Rick, as I look at this and I say to myself, should he want to move on? He shouldn't want to move on, but now I'm looking at it and feeling like he has to move on based on the things that he said.
Yeah, I'm not convinced yet that he has to move on, but relationships, no matter how good they are, sometimes they run their course. And this one started with him going to Super Bowls, 2 in the first 3 years. But where have we been the last few years? 1 playoff win in the last 4 years. And Russell Wilson is looking at it as if I'm the number one reason that we're getting to the playoffs at all. And you're not going to allow me to have a voice in how we're shaped. He's almost been treated like a system quarterback. And as we know, Russell is way better than that and has contributed way more than that.
Okay.
But Pete Carroll seems to be going by the same blueprint that he had back when they had the Legion of Boom, back when they had Marshawn Lynch. And that hasn't worked. And you can't tell me, Greg, I think you made a great point. Tom Brady has ruined it for everybody. And Russell Wilson decided to give himself a front row seat and see just how much fun it is to go to another team where you are valued to the level that you think you should be. I mean, what a mistake. You're going to go there and watch that. And he had to be thinking, oh, man, all this time, I thought he was just putting up with being in New England, and he had to be with Bill Belichick to get Super Bowls. And now you're telling me you can go someplace else and they're going to build around you and they're going to recognize you for what you accomplished. I don't think Russell's the only quarterback who was affected by what Tom Brady did, but he might have been the most affected.
Hey, by the looks of that video, G, it looks like Sierra's saying the same exact thing Slicks has said.
Just imagine we could be here.
Well, Rick, you bring up an interesting point. Like and I believe it's more than just about what Tom Brady was able to do where he ended up in Tampa Bay. It was how much he meant to the team that he left. And I think players are looking at this, especially quarterbacks, like, okay, you think you can continue to have the type of success without me? Try it. And it goes back to value. How a player feels when it comes to their value. Russell Wilson wants to have say. Is that worth letting him walk away because you don't want to, you being Pete Carroll, LaVar, don't want to give up kind of the reins, if you will, don't want to kind of open the door to players' input, which I find always so strange when almost every team that I've ever been associated with or have known from players on, they have what they call kind of a players personnel where you bring those players together and you have that type of player development that kind of speaks to the locker room. They're the conduit that is the voice and echoes everything that the coaches and upper management kind of wants to have done or get done and facilitate to that locker room. I've never been a part of any of those where the quarterback doesn't have a say or hasn't been involved. So if you want players to be involved, let them be involved, especially when you know that they have the best interests of the team as well. And Russell Wilson, I don't believe this is about being selfish and him wanting to just stack his stats and put his numbers up. Every player across the NFL wants to do that. But ultimately, the goal is to win. Russell Wilson wants to win, and he believes that the best way for them to be successful is for him to have some input. And I guarantee you, if we were to take a poll on the players on that Seattle Seahawks team, would you rather have Russell Wilson's input or not? I think they would weigh heavily on rather having his input and moving forward.
I think that is a great point. But I also look at it from the standpoint of if he's not being selfish, and I say that without wanting to be disrespectful or offensive in saying it. If he's not being selfish, Seattle is still where he should want to be. I can understand why he would want to go somewhere else. He's played at a very high level, as you mentioned, Rick. He's done all these things that have bought him the credibility, like you said, in the locker room, G&J. But it has not gained him enough credibility, nor reputationally speaking, enough to be an MVP, a legitimate MVP guy in this league. It's missing. It's an award that is not on his shelf. It's an award that I know if you're playing at as high level as Russell Wilson has played at, you want to have an opportunity to be that guy. I think a lot of what's driving Russell Wilson to feel the way that he feels is his legacy, is the respect that he wants to have when he's done playing this game. He goes somewhere else, say Dallas. You go somewhere like Chicago, where the team is much better than what people give it credit for, and you go there and you go head-to-head twice a year with who, G&J? We all know, right? The MVP of the league. I think that Russell Wilson is on a one-way course, a collision course with destiny in his mind to become a perennial MVP candidate and maybe winner of it, while trying to create that legacy with more Super Bowls and showing that the legitimacy of what it is that he feels he's bringing to the table is definitely worth all of that and maybe then some.
Yeah, but LaVar, to win MVP, you know that you have to have a vehicle around you. It's not just you.
Agreed.
You have to have the weapons and the game plan that is going to allow you to succeed. And I think those are the things that Russell feels are missing. And otherwise, he is MVP caliber, but it's the Seahawks that are holding him back from being able to achieve that. To your point about wanting to leave or that he shouldn't want to leave, I agree with you, actually. And I don't think that he wants to leave. And I think it's clear in the way he's approached this, because he hasn't said, I want to leave. He said, if I left, these are the teams that I want to go to.
Slick.
This is a way of saying, I really don't want to leave. But if you guys don't do what I ask, then I've already thought about it enough that I've got some ideas of where I want to go. The thing that doesn't make any sense to me is his list. I mean, the Cowboys? What about the Cowboys says that you're going to win MVP with the Cowboys?
We'll
the
touch
Bears.
on that.
What? The
We'll
Raiders. What? Now, the Saints, that's the one. That's the one that I could say he's a younger version of Drew Brees. They were on the cusp of being there. He's got the wide receivers. He's got the line. He's got like all the tools there to be able to go. But this list suggests to me that this is really not about, I want to be someplace else. It's more like, I want to be here, but I want a seat at the table. And I'm serious enough about it that I've put a list of teams together where I'll go if you don't give me that.
And I'll add to that. I think it's a culmination of all of that. But let's not forget Russell Wilson's age is playing a factor here. And Rick, I'll come back and say, I do believe he wants out. It's not about so much what you say, it's what you do and how you do it. And with Russell Wilson, he has some savvy. He has some smarts about him. He's been around the corner, been around the block. He's seen how guys have handled it, both good and both not so good. So he doesn't need to say, I want out. He doesn't need to say, I want to be traded. But he can say, hey, these are teams that I would consider being traded to. Why would you say that if you're not considering or not really wanting out? You're allowing those teams to now apply the pressure so that you save face, which I love. I love the strategy. But let's not forget his age. Russell Wilson is in his 30s. He's thinking about his future. So when we talk about Russell Wilson and what he's asking, he wants to be protected. He's seeing Tom Brady. He almost fell asleep in the clip that we were showing when he was sitting there watching Tom Brady at 43 years old. Here he is early in his 30s, and he's being sacked more than 100 times than the next quarterback in his 9-year career. That's not sustainable. When you talk about longevity, I want that as a quarterback. I'm watching it in front of me at the Super Bowl. Give me some protection. Yes, do I extend plays? Do I get off script? Yes, but I can hone in on that if you give me the protection I need to where I can stand in the pocket, where I can make these reads and hit my receivers down the field. So I think it's more about his age, what he really wants, and his longevity, and seeing how Tom Brady has done it. And these older quarterbacks wanting to play longer into their career and extend their career. And the only way to do that is to be upright and to have protection in front of you. And that's what he's asking first and foremost from the Seattle Seahawks.
Listen, you mentioned business earlier, business decisions, taking care of your chickens, as Marshawn would say, ironically enough, as a Seattle Seahawk. I think he's looking at this as he's hit his threshold in Seattle. And when you look at your business and you're hitting thresholds that aren't going to yield you the type of returns that you want going into the future, you got to make business decisions. This is out of character, in my opinion, of what we know of Russell Wilson to come out and make this type of business public knowledge. He has always been one that has handled things in a way where people have not questioned what the motives, what the agenda may be, or even question if it is good or bad. He's just always done things in such a way where it's so innocent and so well received. This is the first time that we've seen something that kind of teeters the fence. It's questionable. And for him to take that large of a step and maybe even consider a risk in terms of reputationally speaking for himself, it says to me that Russ is looking at what his career is, what his future is, what can he achieve, where can he achieve what he wants to get achieved, and it doesn't seem to be Seattle. And I think that that's just what it comes down to, Rick.
Yeah, look, it's a reflection of the level of frustration that he feels because he has been the good soldier. He has quietly been mollywopped year after year after year. And rolled with it. And so he's gotten to a point where it's like, something needs to change, and you're not even going to allow me to have a voice in changing it. And I can't help but we have to take into account where things are with the ownership of the Seahawks. Paul Allen having passed away, and now the organization being run essentially by his wife. There's no one. This is a message from Russell Wilson to Jody Allen to say, hey, look, I need some. If you want me to stay, if you want us to move forward, then something has to change with Pete Carroll. I have to have some level of authority within this organization, or I want to go someplace else. And I can just tell you that the Blazers, also owned by the Allen family, have the same situation, don't have ownership presence. But the relationship between their personnel decision maker, Neil Olshey, and their best player, Damian Lillard, is solid. Like, there's no concerns. They're on the same page. I assure you, Damian Lillard has a voice in what they do and how they do it. Russell Wilson just wants the same thing, and I feel as if he's earned it.